So Michelle is an SEO content strategist and also an editor. And I'm going to put her website in the chat so you can check it out. And then, all right, well then, I will, if you want to, I know Linda had said that you were going to talk a little bit about SEO, types of things as editors we should be aware of. Maybe like some of the top 3 things that we tend to do that perhaps we shouldn't do in regard to SEO. And then like 3 things that are actionable that we can do to kind of get on the right track. And I know this is something that I'm like very guilty of. So I have my notepad here and I'm ready to be taking notes as well. So
Okay.
I'll let you get started.
Wonderful. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it very much. And let me apologize in advance if I'm a little bit snarfly. My allergies are really acting up, which is also why I'm not on camera today. So I might be, making a little bit of noise in between talking. So I apologize in advance. Okay,
No
so
worries.
Linda did send me those questions. What she asked for was the 3 most common mistakes editors make with SEO on their websites, and then 3 things we can do now to improve our SEO so clients find us. So I am going to go through, excuse me, 3 of those things in each of those to answer each of those questions. And then, as I said, we can get into some questions at the end too. So 3 most common mistakes. The first one is targeting too broad keywords or vague keywords. There is no way that anybody is going to rank for editing or proofreading or line editing even. The thing is that when people are looking up, it's not that no one types that into Google. I'm sure they do, but when they type in, and those are called head terms, when they type in head terms like that, usually they're looking for definitions. So 2 things you can do is add services at the end of that on your website. Instead of just I do line editing, I provide line editing services, because that is when someone's ready to buy and they're not just looking up, what is the difference between line editing and copy editing, or just what is line editing. And they're ready to buy those services. That's something that they're going to append on the end of that query. So that's one thing you can do. The next thing you can do is if you have a niche, target it. Let's say, for example, that you edit cozy mystery novels. That's one way that you can narrow it down: cozy mystery editing, cozy mystery novel editing. And then you can even get down deeper into a niche like that, or a genre like that, rather. For example, paranormal cozy or pet cozy, or, there's so many subgenres in that genre right now too. So those are some things that you can do to target more specific keywords and not get so broad with just editing, excuse me, or copy editing. The second thing is a common mistake is targeting the same keywords on more than one page. That is called keyword cannibalization. And what happens is when you are targeting the same keyword on more than one page, Google isn't going to know which page to rank for that keyword. And also your clients aren't really going to know which page applies to them if you're talking about the same thing on more than one page. Think of your website as a book with chapters, and the pages of your website are those chapters. You're going to have one chapter that talks about line editing. You're going to have one chapter that talks about proofreading, one chapter that talks about developmental editing. You're not going to have one chapter that talks about everything, because that's just confusing, and that's going to wreak havoc with your index as well, which is basically what is going to be created inside of Google as well. It is their index, and that's why they call it that. So if those are services that you provide, if you provide line editing, you provide developmental editing, you provide book coaching, one page per keyword, one page per service is going to help those pages to rank better than if you're targeting more than the same one, or even more than one, now that I'm saying that, the same keyword on more than one page, or multiple keywords on the same page. It's the same principle. Does that make sense before I move forward? Okay. All right.
Oh, I think Alan has a quick question.
Sure, go for it.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
thanks. Um, so, well, I think I have two actually. I'll ask the first one. I don't really understand the way that Google actually does keywords. Like so, for instance, paranormal cozy, right? That those words may not come up in sequence,
Nope,
but if you
you're
use them
right.
together in a sentence, it still works. I don't really get how that goes.
Okay, that is a really good question, and I'm so glad that you asked that. You're right. It might not always come up in sequence, and that has to do with the way that people still search. Google has evolved to the point where it's recognized as natural language. So where we used to search for things like cozy paranormal book, to try to find a cozy paranormal book, you can search for paranormal cozy editing or paranormal cozy book editing in sequence, the way that we normally speak. Now, because Google has evolved to that point, it also is going to recognize if those words are in close proximity, but not necessarily in that same order. So let's say you have paranormal cozy, but 10 words later, you have the word book. Okay, maybe it's not going to rank, that page isn't going to rank for paranormal cozy book. But if you have paranormal cozy mystery book, let's just say, separating paranormal cozy and book with that one word mystery is not going to harm that keyword. It's still going to be able to rank for paranormal cozy book, because Google recognizes that, okay, there's one word in there, but those three words, this phrase that you're looking for, those are in pretty close proximity on this page. So it stands to reason that that's still what this page is talking about.
Great, that's really helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Did you want to do your second question?
I'll save it. That's okay.
Okay. All
Thank
right.
you.
Sure. Okay. So just to reiterate before we move on, avoid targeting the same keyword on more than one page, and avoid targeting multiple keywords on one page as well. It as I said, it's the same principle. One
I'm
keyword per
sorry.
page. Sure. Go ahead.
I'll ask my second question. Thank you. Um, so what about for like my homepage, right? My homepage is going to mention all of the services that I provide
Right.
as an introduction chapter, right, to the rest of the website.
Yes.
That's okay. It's just when
That's
you're getting
fine.
into the back pages.
When you're getting into your service pages. Thank you
Yeah.
for asking that. Yeah, let me
Okay.
specify. I'm talking about your service pages. Home pages are a totally different animal. Google recognizes that's your root domain, that's your home page. Yes, it is going to talk about everything that you do. It's going to have a little introduction. Yes, the introduction to your book, where you talk about this is what this book is about, and I'm the author of this book, and this is who I am. A little bit of all of that. You don't want to get too deep into any of those things
Mm-hmm.
on your homepage. And I would also caution against getting too deep into who you are. That's what the about page is for. Um, Keeping in mind, Google, and forgive me if I if it seems like I'm going off on tangents. It's just that there is so much scope creep in SEO. It's really hard to talk about. There's just this one little thing here. It actually relates to about 5 or 10 or 11 other things. So Google released an algorithm update, actually called the Helpful Content Update, last August, I want to say. No, might have been sooner than that, maybe last March. In any case, they released the Helpful Content Update. So what they're looking for is for every page on your site, well, let me say almost every page on your site to be helpful to the reader. So when they land on your homepage, they want to know what this business is about and basically what's in it for me. Why am I on this page? I'm looking for editing services. What are those services provided to me? If you start getting into your whole bio on your homepage, no, that's a bit much. You want to save that for the about page. That's what that page is for. So just a little introduction. I'm a line editor, and Alan. I'm sorry, Alan. Yes.
Yes.
Alan, I did take a quick look at your website. Linda shared it with me, and I'm Alan, and I used to be an English teacher, and now I'm an editor. But then your about page gets more into your whole bio and your whole history and the whole description about who you are. But the homepage, yes, that's totally different from service pages.
Awesome. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
You're very welcome. And I want to talk to you about living in Mexico too, but we'll take that.
I can go on for hours on that. I'd love to.
Okay. Now, the third most common mistake, not linking internally. Okay. So let's picture that book again. And you're reading one page in that book, and the page is about line editing, but it mentions offhand developmental editing. So you go, oh, well, I don't know what that is. I want to know what that is. In a book, the only way you can do that is you're going to flip back to the index and look for developmental editing and find what page that's on. On the web, you can link it. So on your page about line editing, and you say something at the bottom like, I also offer developmental editing, you want to link that to your developmental editing page. That's going to do a couple of things. First of all, it makes it easy for the reader. It makes it easier for your potential client. All they have to do is click that link. They don't have to scroll all the way back up to your nav menu. They don't have to go looking for it under your services menu or anything. It's right there for them. So you're making it easy. The second thing that does is it tells Google what that developmental editing page is about. So links are like endorsements. One of the best kind of links you can get is it's called a backlink. It would also be an inbound link from another website. So let's say that another authoritative website links to your site, links to your developmental editing page, and they use that phrase as the anchor text. And anchor text is the text that is actually lit up that you actually click to get to the destination page. They use the phrase developmental editing. That's telling Google that page that I'm linking to is about developmental editing. So that's like an endorsement from that page. That kind of anchor text that's awesome. It's called optimized anchor text. It is targeting the same keyword that you're targeting on that page. Of course, that's a powerful link. That's going to help you out a lot. The chances that another site is going to link to you with that optimized anchor text those chances are slim. So you can do it yourself. So internal links are the only links where you can fully control the anchor text. You can make sure that it's optimized. So when you link internally, you link from one of your pages to another one of your pages, you can use that optimized anchor text. You can use your keywords as anchor text. You don't want to overdo it, but again, looking at that service page again, when you get to, okay, I offer line editing and that's what this is and how it works. And then you get to the bottom and say, if this isn't right for you, you're looking for developmental editing, that I offer that as well. Right there, where you say, I offer developmental editing, you're going to link developmental editing to your developmental editing page. So not linking internally, not doing that, you're missing out on a lot of power that can help that page rank. Excuse me, for that phrase. And I would also say append it, as I said a little bit ago, append it with services. I offer developmental editing services because, again, developmental editing, somebody's probably looking for the definition. Make sure that you're linking with services. So if you're not doing that, you're missing out. If you have a blog, that's another opportunity to do that. Let's say you write a blog post about the difference between line editing and proofreading, or line editing and developmental editing. Within that blog post, you can link back to your service page with those keywords as well. That's another opportunity to build internal links and tell Google not once, but now twice, hey, this page is about line editing. So Google goes, oh, okay, or line editing services. So Google goes, okay, next time somebody searches for line editing services, I can give them this page that these other two pages are saying. They're pointing to this page saying, hey, this signpost, this is what this page is about. I can put that up there for their in the search result for them to find it.
Michelle, can I ask a quick question? So
of course.
Thank you. Well, I had always heard that like if you wanted to link something, and instead of saying, to see more about my developmental editing services, click here, the click here it was kind of an accessibility issue, but from what I'm hearing from you is it's also like an SEO issue, because like
Yes,
basically you're losing out on that huge amount of benefit by like teaching the Google, what your page is about by using those
absolutely.
generic terms. So that's the correct way to understand that.
You are understanding it correctly. I'm not sure why click here would be considered an accessibility. And that is something that I am aware of and I keep in mind. And that is something that's important for SEO as well as accessibility. I don't really know why click here would offer any accessibility benefits over linking the actual words that that page is about.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. What I meant was that it's better to use the actual words than click here.
Yes,
Yeah,
no, yes, yeah,
yeah, that's what I
yeah,
meant to
we're
say.
saying
Yeah,
the same thing.
yeah, yeah, I think so. And we have another editor who uses this screen readers, and we could probably ask her for a little more insight on that.
Mhm.
But I'm glad I didn't realize from the SEO side of it. So that's helpful
Yes.
for me to know. Okay.
Okay, now that you say screen reader, yeah, I can see then why, because it might not, the screen reader might not say, oh, and by the way, this developmental editing services phrase is a link.
Oh,
So
okay.
click here. Okay, so I can see in that respect.
Okay.
Yeah, oh, that's a tough one. You are missing out on SEO benefit if you use click here rather than the actual phrase, rather than the keyword. The way to think of anchor text is as queries, as search queries. When somebody is searching
Okay.
for, somebody searches for developmental editing services. So that's what you want to make that anchor text. Nobody is searching for click here,
Right,
ever,
right.
anything, any reason. So I don't know what the in between would be to, in that specific instance. Um, that's a really tough one for accessibility. It might be that you just need to make sure that your nav menus are very clear to help that person who's using the screen reader, and not rely on those internal links for accessibility and just keep the internal links for SEO.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Where am I? Let me see. Oh, so one other thing about linking internally, and another reason why this is something you want to avoid, that also helps Googlebot navigate your site. So when Googlebot comes by to crawl your site and see what your site is about and decide how it's going to rank it and whether it's going to put your pages in the index at number 3 or number 30 or wherever it's going to go, the bot needs to be able to navigate your site. So it can do that through the nav menu that you have, but if you internally link your pages, it makes it a lot easier. Think of the bot as a reader too. It gets to the bottom of the page and there's nowhere else for it to go. Okay, now I have to go back to the nav menu to find the next page. Whereas if you had linked to another page at the bottom of the page that the bot is on, it can just go directly there. That helps with your site architecture as well. So it's like you're making a little highway for Googlebot to travel and go from one page to the next. And that's how Google is going to see the relationship between those pages as well. The Googlebot is like, I'm on the developmental editing page and there's the phrase line editing here. Oh, and it's linked and I can go right to that page. So the page that I'm going to is about line editing. I got to remember that. Okay. So now next time or line editing services, sorry. Now next time somebody searches for line editing services, I know that there's this page here that I'm about to crawl, that I have crawled, that is about that. So I can offer that page to them in the result. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So 3 things you can do right now to improve your SEO so clients can find you. The first thing is to update your titles and meta descriptions. And when I say titles, I don't mean the title that's on your page that's visible on the page itself. I mean the title tag. It's actually a title element, but most people call it a title tag. This is in the head portion of your the page's HTML. If you look at a page, when you have your browser open, and you look at the top of all your tabs, the many, many tabs that I'm sure you have open like I do, And what's in those tabs, for example, I have open right now a Google Doc where I have my notes for this call. So what's in that tab shows me the title of that page, the title tag. I have my own website open because I'm gonna show you something on my site in a minute. So I see Michelle Lowery, SEO content strategist. That's my title tag. That's super important. When you search, and I'm talking about Google the whole time, we know that this is the biggest search engine. Yes, there are others out there. There's Bing, there's Yahoo, but it's still the biggest search engine. And as long as you are optimizing for Google and adhering to Google's best practices, you're doing the same for the other search engines. They're not really deviating very much, if at all. So when you go into Google and you search for something and you get that list of results, those titles, the blue text, the hyperlink text, those are the title tags. So title tag is the most important element on your page. You want to make sure that it is descriptive of what the page is. You want to make sure that you have changed it and it's not the default, when you built your WordPress site, it just said something like, this is a WordPress site, or, something that is not telling the searcher what is on that page. They're not going to want to click through that. And then the meta description is what you see below those titles on the SERP, on the search engine result page. When I say SERP, I'm talking about the search engine result page. So you want to write a meta description that has nothing to do with ranking, but this is where you encourage people to click through because you've got a lot of competition. That's valuable real estate on that page because somebody has searched for line editing services, all your competitors are coming up on that page as well. You need a meta description that's going to make you stand out and make them click through. So it's got to be eye-catching. It's got to be interesting. It's got to be different than all the others and not just for more information, click through or something generic like that. Now, it's important to know that Google sometimes rewrites, and I shouldn't say rewrite, sometimes uses different meta descriptions than the one that you created, okay? You still should create one. You still should have a customized meta description. And I'm going to tell you why it's okay that Google doesn't always use it. For this example, I'm going to talk about a recipe blog, okay? So let's say I have a recipe blog, I have a cooking blog, and I put up a recipe for chocolate cake. And when I list the ingredients, I specify that I'm using Mexican chocolate for my chocolate cake. Now, my post, this page is not about Mexican chocolate. I don't talk about it in the description. I might just say, and then I add the Mexican chocolate or whatever, but it's not something that I'm targeting, okay? So obviously I want my page to rank for chocolate cake or chocolate cake recipe, how to bake a chocolate cake, things like that. And those things I have targeted on the page. My meta description says something like, learn how to bake the most awesome chocolate cake you've ever tasted or something like that. Nowhere am I talking about Mexican chocolate in the title or the meta description, okay? But one day somebody comes to Google and they say, you know what? One time I had this chocolate cake and it was made with Mexican chocolate and it was so good. I wonder if there are any recipes out there that use Mexican chocolate. So they type that in, chocolate cake recipe with Mexican chocolate or Mexican chocolate cake recipe, something like that. Google has crawled my page and they saw that I mentioned it. And Google's like, oh, you know what? I remember I saw that one time. Let me show you this page. But instead of giving you this meta description that this person wrote that doesn't mention it, I'm going to give you a little snippet of the page that does mention, and then add the Mexican chocolate. So that person knows, okay, this page is what I'm looking for. So don't be discouraged or don't be dismayed if when your site or one of your pages comes up in Google, it's not using the meta description that you wrote and just throw up your hands and go, well, I may as well not even bother. No, go ahead. You do want to still have a meta description for those times when there isn't something specific like that Google is going to pick something else off the page. But if it does, it did it for a reason. So it's okay. That, a lot of people get upset. Well, Google's just overrunning what I'm doing and why am I bothering with this? No, it's fine. It's good that they do that. Like I said, in that example, it helped this person find your page that they might not have found otherwise if they were going solely on your title and meta description. Okay. All right. Real quick too about title tags and meta descriptions. There are character limits. It's not a limit in that you can make your title as long as you want. You can make your meta description as long as you want, but Google is only going to display a certain portion of it because it's, you can't, your meta description can't be 500 words and take up all that space on the SERP. You've got to share. So the character limits that I use are 55 to 60 characters for titles and 155 to 160 for meta descriptions. And I say the ones I use because those are about 5 characters below what is recommended as being what is the word? As being common practice, because I want to make sure that my stuff doesn't get truncated. And that's including spaces, by the way. Google doesn't really measure titles and meta descriptions by characters, it measures by pixels. So this is another reason why I go 5 characters below, because I'm not going to measure pixels. That's too much of a pain. It's easier just to do characters. But the way that it does that is, for example, the letter O takes up more space than the letter I. Okay. So I don't want to worry about that. I don't want to mess with pixels and make sure that I'm within the number of pixels that the search result is going to be. So I'm just going to do use characters. If you go beyond those, if you go beyond the 60 to 65, or as I'm saying, the 55 to 60, it will be truncated. So if for some reason your blog post or your page has a title that's longer than that, just make sure that your primary keyword is toward the front, because that's what's going to show, that's what's going to get people to click through. Same with your meta description. If you're mentioning your keyword in your meta description, and sure, why not? Why wouldn't you? You don't have to, because as I said, it doesn't have anything to do with ranking. It's for click through. But just make sure that you're mentioning it early on instead of at the very tail end where it may get truncated, even if you're, trying to be cognizant of the number of characters that you're using. Okay, 1 moment, please.
This is all so helpful. It's like, to me, yeah, it's hugely helpful. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I'm glad. That makes me happy. Okay, so I mentioned this a little bit ago, so I'm going to reiterate it here, the 3 as a thing that you can do now. It's related to the mistake of not internally linking, and I did mention it then. If you have a blog, link to your service pages. And I described how to do that already. This goes back to the internal linking we were talking about, but it's super important to remember to link. There are 2 tenets of SEO, which are relevance and intent. Okay. When someone searches for line editing services, they want to land on a page that's about line editing services. They don't want to land on a page that's about some other kind, or the definition of line editing. That's not what they're looking for. That's their intent. You want to make sure that you're meeting their intent. If you're internally linking your pages and you link 2 pages that are not related to each other, you're doing 2 things. Number one, you're not helping the destination page rank for its primary keyword. And number 2, you're not helping the searcher, because that when they search and that page comes up, it's not going to meet their intent. Okay. So